Joining me now is NBC's Courtney Kube and Jason Kander. He's a veteran, the former Missouri Secretary of State, and president of the National Expansion at the Veterans Community Project. Thank you both for being here. Courtney, you've been reporting on this. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so, I mean, this is not unprecedented for a ship to be renamed. Of course, just in recent years, when the administration decided that they were going to take some of the names that are associated with the Confederacy off of bases and off of installations, they also renamed at least one ship, the USS Chancellorsville. But there are officials who are telling us, look, this could be unnecessarily disruptive. Now, the USNS Harvey Milk is actually in maintenance right now. It's in Alabama. So the timing could work out that for them to go in and rename the ship, physically change the name on the ship while it's in maintenance. But at this point, Chris, we still don't even know what it's going to be renamed to. And it is certainly not lost on anyone the timing of this, of course, during Pride Month. Well, 3 months ago, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, when he was just newly the Secretary of Defense here, sent out a memo saying that identity months are dead at DOD, months including Pride Month. It's simply not recognized here at the Department of Defense per a memo that the Secretary signed in February. Now, this is not the only ship, though, that is under consideration. As you mentioned, this is part of a class. The USNS Harvey Milk is an oiler. It's a replenishment or a support ship for other U.S. Navy ships, but it's part of a class of John Lewis ships that were named after civil rights icons. And according to officials we're speaking with here at the Department of Defense, while the Harvey Milk has been ordered to be renamed, other ships are still under consideration. As you mentioned, one named after Thurgood Marshall, after Ruth Bader Ginsburg, after Cesar Chavez. Those are still under consideration but have not yet been ordered. As for the Department of Defense and the timing of this, they are saying that this is, according to a spokesperson here, this is in keeping with the priorities set by the Commander-in-Chief. Chris?
All right. So, Jason, reaction we heard from one veteran that this does nothing to help crew members prepare for war. I mean, the military has long been something that's supposed to be outside of politics. Do you see this move as part of a politicization of the armed forces?
Yeah, this is what happens when you put a Fox News host in charge of the Pentagon. I mean, everything looks like a tweet. And that's what he's doing. I mean, this is like a tweet to troll gay people during Pride Month. I mean, it's pretty immature. It also is representative of the 80s action movie way that these folks in the Trump administration see the military, and certainly clearly the way Pete Hegseth sees the military. He talks constantly about trying to restore a warrior culture in the United States military. Well, I mean, Pete Hegseth may be confused because he was asked to leave the United States military because of the way he behaved, but if he had stuck around, he would have been reminded every day that this is the most lethal, most effective, and most professional military in the history of planet Earth. And that's the military that he inherited. So when you say to sailors throughout the Navy, that is one of the branches that you're in charge of, that you cannot be gay and be part of the warrior ethos, the warrior mentality, well, that's a real problem in a military that rightfully got rid of the law that forced Harvey Milk out of the military. We should remember that it's not a bad thing to remind those who are serving what they're serving for, what they're fighting for. And if you want to talk about a warrior ethos, I mean, how about somebody who joins the military during a war as an officer, gets kicked out over their own objections, and then goes on to fight for civil rights and gives their life for the cause? That's probably the kind of thing that we want to remind our service members that America is about and what we're fighting for in the first place.
So is the bottom line here that the message you think a lot of folks in the military hear is that if you're part of the LGBTQ community, you're not welcome? Because Secretary Hegseth has said the single dumbest phrase in military history is diversity is our strength.
Yeah. I don't know what the heck he's talking about. I was an officer candidate school instructor after I deployed to Afghanistan. It was literally my job to help, shape leaders in the United States military. And I can tell you one of the things I learned both as a leader and as a trainer of leaders is that a diversity of backgrounds and a diversity of people makes your unit better. As a result, when I went into the civilian world, I was not looking for diversity to check a box. I was looking for diversity because I knew that it made every unit better. Pete Hegseth, I guess, thinks that you got to look like me or him in order to be effective in the military. That you got to be a white dude who's straight and all this stuff. Like, look, man, I mean, if we're gonna look at things that way, like, why don't you rename it the Jean-Claude Van Damme or the Arnold Schwarzenegger? Or actually, no, because they wouldn't do that because Schwarzenegger's actually had views that they don't like because he's, for like doing something about the climate. But I mean, like, let's just name it the.
Joining us now, award-winning reporter and the author of several critically acclaimed nonfiction books on the American military, Thomas Ricks. His latest novel is titled We Can't Save You. And Tom, we'll get to the book in just a moment. But first, we want to get you on these current events. What are your thoughts from what you saw from Ukraine over the weekend? These remarkable secret drone strikes deep inside Russia, sending a powerful signal, and also coming just hours before the two sides were meeting for their second round of peace talks.
I think you're exactly right. It sent a powerful signal. The strikes apparently were not as destructive as first described, yet the TV images were so important. And I think it was a message not just to Vladimir Putin, but also Donald Trump. The sense that Trump really doesn't read or understand words on the paper, but he understands TV images and watches them incessantly.
So, Rick, we want to get to your book, but I do want to touch on your latest opinion piece for Politico magazine. It's entitled What Pete Hegseth Gets Wrong About Warfighting. And you write in part this: the more you know about military operations, the more you understand that you don't want to focus on fighting. That gets people killed, like your kids or grandkids. The worst way to go to war is by flinging your people into combat. War fighting, as the tattooed and tough-talking former TV commentator puts it. You don't do frontal assaults against an entrenched and bunkered enemy, as happened on D-Day, because you want to, but because you absolutely have no other choice. Yes, force readiness is great, but the best way to win wars is by helping other countries be ready. Preparing our allies also makes them less susceptible to being overrun by their and our enemies, a lesson that the world is learning the hard way in Ukraine. Knowing how to actually wage war alongside allies is the way to victory, not this macho nonsense Hegseth is peddling. I think it's like the warrior ethos or something he calls it. But geostrategically, it makes a lot of sense to stand up with your allies. And it seems like that's exactly the opposite of what this administration is doing.
It is the opposite. Pete Hegseth talks a lot about discipline, but look, Pete Hegseth is not a poster child for discipline. This is a notoriously indisciplined man. He's talking a lot about lethality in war, but if you actually look at what he's doing, he's taking apart things like the security assistance brigades that are so important in helping allies fight. And he's really focusing on politics. I'm appalled at how they're stripping out names, like supposedly they're going to take the name Medgar Evers off a Navy ship. Medgar Evers is an American hero. Pete Hegseth should respect someone like that, a veteran and a man who came home and fought for freedom in America as well before being murdered, shot in the back by a white supremacist. But this administration likes white supremacists more than it likes people like Medgar Evers, and that appalls me.
Yeah, and Thomas, we mentioned earlier in the show, of course, that they're also going to strip the name of Harvey Milk off of a naval vessel. So let's talk a little more about this culture here that Hegseth has created. He's very fond of putting up social media videos of him working out with the troops, but yet he's also this week skipping a meeting other defense ministers about Ukraine, the first time a U.S. SecDef has done so since the start of the war. What sort of signal do you think Hegseth's leadership at the Pentagon is sending to the rest of the world and how it's being perceived not just in Moscow, but maybe in Beijing.
Hegseth is sending the message that we're not serious. We talk about war fighting, but we're not doing the things that a nation that wants to have a ready force and wants to fight alongside allies does. Every signal I see and what they're really doing with our military is making it a political toy. They're looking for political generals who agree with them on ideology. This is no way to run a military. You want someone who's disciplined, who knows about killing and combat. You have somebody like James Mattis, who was Defense Secretary a few years ago, retired Marine general. That is a man of mental, intellectual, and physical discipline. To my mind, Hegseth has none of those. And for him to talk about discipline is a joke, especially when he supports very indisciplined people like the special operator Eddie Gallagher, who was put on trial by the Navy for a variety of war crimes.
So, Tom, let's get to your new novel entitled We Can't Save You.
What we have here is Donald continuing to infuriate people that understand the military better than him. And mark my words, that's why I have the question mark in the title. We don't know for sure. But this is why I think Pete Hegseth is ultimately going to go down. I don't think he's finishing these 4 years. Because he doesn't understand this stuff. He has served, and you can't take that away from him. Like, he has served in the military. And as such, he's a veteran, and he deserves that basic modicum of respect that anybody that served their country has. But it doesn't make them automatically correct, and it doesn't mean that they understand the regular experiences of other service people, and it doesn't mean that they understand what they're doing. And whether it's on the technical aspects, because people say he doesn't understand what it is to conduct the science, in a sense, and the art of war, like, the art of war, the science of war, the technicalities of it. These are skills. I don't know anything about it. I don't know crap about that. Maybe some of you do. I don't, right? But I know that it's a skill. It's not just something that you just ham-fist your way through. But also it's the politics of the military. Like, Hegseth is being needlessly antagonistic. Trump is being needlessly antagonistic to the people that make the United States military what it is, which is a diverse group of citizens serving. And many people forget that, guys, in many ways, yes, it's more male than the average population, but the military is more racially diverse than the American population, which means that there is a slightly overrepresentation of certain minority groups that serve in the military more than European Americans, and as a proportion. So this idea that as everything's DEI, we get anything named after a black person or what have you is automatically woke or what have you is insane, and it's just infuriating the people that have served. Remember, you don't join the military to be a Republican talking point. You do it to serve your country. At least that's why a lot of people join.